Growing up is never easy for anyone. Growing up an only child in a home where troubling family conflicts were the norm was never easy either. I have the vivid memory of being 8 and hiding beneath my bed sheets at a hotel room in France as my parents hollered at each other in boiling rage while I laid there trying to get my little head away from the family that was visibly crumbling to pieces in front of my very eyes. I can't even begin to describe the feeling of complete impotence I felt throughout some of the earliest years of my life. The confusion of being stuck in a tug of war wielded between two of the most important figures of my world during childhood. I had never in my life felt so alone. I had amazing friends, but they didn't know what was going on at my home. And I had amazing relatives, but most of them were always distant. People were either on my mom's side or my dad's side. And the problem was, I was in between. I felt alone, and I didn't know what to do. I knew adults had their issues. Growing up in the home where I did forced me to understand many harsh realities about life at a very, very early age. Things that I didn't necessarily want to understand, but rationalizing was a coping mechanism that I knew I could always count on. I remember May 2012 was when things finally hit rock bottom. Right when we all thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. It truly, truly did. You wouldn't believe me if I told you how close my parents were to getting a divorce. However, to everyone's surprise, they didn't. They chose to stay together despite facing their issues, despite having differences, and despite having problems. I turned 17 3 days ago, and now I can proudly say that my family is still together and our relationship is stronger than ever. Despite everything we went through, I can certainly say, looking back, that it's all been worth it. My mother, my father, and I now live in a healthy, loving home that we've all built from the ground up. And I can tell you that achieving that was really hard, and it costed us a lot, and it forced us to face many uncomfortable situations. However, looking back, as I told you, it's all been worth it. I have to give my parents the credit they deserve. They are two of the bravest people I know. They managed to forgive themselves and each other in this journey of life, realizing we're all human and make mistakes. They had the courage to stand up and face their problems despite having to face moments of vulnerability. As my mother often likes to say, they really did grab the bull by the horns, and they did it together. I'm giving you context because context is important. Right now you must be wondering, how did we rebuild our family after such deep wounds had been carved in our stories? And I'll tell you right now that it was a long process that included going to family therapy. I am well aware of the fact that there's a huge stigma surrounding therapy. A stigma which portrays not only family therapy, but therapy in general as something only crazy people need. And that is something that deeply, deeply angers me. Why, you may ask? Because it's those kinds of stereotypes that keep people from getting the help they so desperately need in order to better their condition. These stereotypes deeply, deeply enrage me. Not only because of the reason I just said, but because it's so hypocritical of us to think that it is so logical to go to a doctor for something like a headache or something physical. But we deeply judge other people when they search help for their heartaches and their emotional pain. Emotions are something we can't ignore. As humans, we are feeling beings, and emotions directly affect the state of our health, whether we want it or not. I can tell you, if it weren't for the kind people that helped my family get through this crisis, I don't know where we would be. There is absolutely no shame in reaching out. As I told you, we humans are feeling beings, and having someone to help us understand those emotions is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. So don't let yourself be ashamed. As a society, we must stop judging people for getting these kinds of treatments, because there's a reason as to why they exist, and they are there to help us become who we want to become. After thinking long and hard, after this entire process, I've come up with a series of pillars to help rebuild a relationship, not only within my own context, in my own family life, but I believe they can be applied to any kind of relationship. The first one is based upon willingness and disposition. These two go hand in hand. Everybody involved in a relationship must be willing to rebuild their bonds. There must be clarity as to what everybody wants to gain in that relationship, whether that is love or support or any other thing that you might want to find. There must also be an understanding that we are human and that we're not perfect. A space to share ideas, opinions, and concerns must be open within a group of people in order to address their conflicts in the most healthy and respectful way possible. Trust me, I understand what it's like to be hurt. But right now, the most important thing is that you open the opportunity up for dialogue. You need to listen to what the other person has to say to you or about you with the intent to understand what they're saying and where they're coming from, and not with the intent to negatively react. Because there's a difference in between how we listen when we want to understand and how we listen when we only want to react. Remember, you have control over your own words, your own actions, so please always be careful with what you do. However, tact and respect aren't the only things that you need in order to rebuild a relationship. Another thing that you need is honesty, which is my second pillar. We need to start being honest both with ourselves and with others when striving to rebuild a relationship. Being honest can be hard and it can be painful. However, we must comprehend that honesty is vitally important in every aspect of life, a crucial part of the world of ethics, and the most genuine form of mutual respect. Finally, the third and last pillar is resilience. I may only be 17, but I do know one thing for certain, and that is that life is nothing but endurance, and perseverance is the key to success. Those who persevere almost always succeed. I know it may sometimes seem easier to just let a relationship go. It may just seem less painful or less strenuous. However, I can tell you that not facing the problems you have within a relationship right now can lead to you encountering those same problems later in life with different people. Let me clarify that separation is a vital part of our society and something that we can't really avoid. However, more often than not, people who want to stay united, whether that is friends, whether that is family, find themselves in situations where they don't know what to do. They find themselves in situations where they don't know how to deal with their problems, and therefore, consequently, end up getting separated without really wanting to. I want to remind you that perfect relationships are not the goal, because they don't exist. The point is developing the confidence, the collective support, and the dialogue skills in order to address domestic conflict in the most powerful, honest, and respectful way. It is crucial that we strive to be assertive, yet never aggressive. Remember to always take care of yourself and your health first. And if you feel that things are getting out of hand, I am imploring you to please go and seek support. Rebuilding a broken home is not easy, but I can assure you it's worth it. Remember that you are dealing with people who at one point also fell in love with who you are or who you were. If there is love inside a relationship, whether it is a friend or whether it is a lover, at any point in time, isn't it worth trying to save that? Think about it. Love is a powerful emotion, and it's something that we must cherish and protect. In my experience and in my family's experience, I can say that forgiveness is a beautiful thing. Forgiveness of someone who's let you down humbles you, makes you a better person, and in turn, a better human being. Because complex as human relationships may be, they are something purely natural that may sometimes be put to the test against everything life's got. As a final thing, I want to let you know that the process of understanding each other in this journey we call life is worth it. It is worth it, even if it makes us frail and even if it makes us vulnerable, because that is in turn what makes us so human. There is so much beauty in getting to understand another person's universe and in being able to forgive them for their flaws. And hopefully, one day, you'll be able to give them a second chance without losing your own dignity. Rebuilding lives is never easy because forgiveness is not easy, but it is necessary for rebuilding hopes, dreams, and illusions. Rebuilding what we call life is not easy, but I can assure you it's worth it. And please, always strive for a greater kindness. Thank you.